What's going on, everybody? This is Alex Quinn, and you're listening to another episode of Hustle Inspires Hustle. On today's episode, I have Neil Twa, founder of Voltage Digital Marketing. What's up, man?
Hey guy, how you doing?
Another digital marketer, man. I'm excited to have you on.
I don't like to. I guess I am. Come to think of it, I mean, I don't normally call myself that, but that's one of the things I do for sure.
I mean, it's
Uh,
on your wall, bro.
I know it's like it says it right there, so I should probably own up to it, right? Yeah, I'm labeled. God.
So break it down for me. How long have you been in the biz? Was it always digital marketing? What's going on with you?
So it wasn't always digital marketing.
Okay.
17 years in the game since I fired the man and burned the boats and left. Digital marketing was something I got into as a necessity of driving business for my offline business, which was a management consulting firm.
Okay.
Um, and so digital marketing was just a new approach to reaching new clients to, expand the business. And so I had to learn it. I'd always been around the internet since it came online to some capacity and knew I was going to get involved in the world of e-commerce somehow.
Yeah.
Just wasn't sure when and exactly how. And because the money flowed into the corporate worlds at first, that's where I went because nobody knew what they were doing. And we were all just figuring it out as we went. And people were spending billions of dollars figuring it out, hence the dot-com bubble.
Yeah.
And then, all of that stabilized into the 2000s. And so business and the internet became a naturalized way of doing business. So I knew eventually I'd always figure out my own thing and a time to leave. And I did eventually get to that point where it was time to split and go and never look back. And I started offline and online companies. And that kind of led me into the digital marketing world and into products and services and physical products.
So you work back in IBM?
I was once upon a time back in the day. We called it I've been moved. The last year I was
You've
there,
been moved.
I've been moved. I traveled 200 times that year. So I was out as a
Shit.
consummate road warrior.
Wow, man. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
dude,
a
I was
blessing and a curse at the same time, I guess,
needed
tired
it.
now from traveling all the time, but still getting to travel.
I didn't have my family yet. Wasn't married to the woman I live in now with, and have our 4 daughters and run our lifestyle.
Poor girl, you are
So
you the only man in the house?
I am the only man. It only takes one of me, dude. That's why God knew that He had to pair me with 5 women.
Not even a dog, bro? Like a maybe
Oh, I got female dogs and female cats, and the
No,
male.
you don't, bro.
Oh
No,
yeah, the male cats and dogs are all neutered, so they don't really count, right? So or spayed, so they don't count either.
yeah, there's
Uh,
only space for one man in that house, man. I got you.
there's just one of me, dude, and everybody else.
Man. Oh, I think that's
It's a
beautiful.
blessing.
God bless your family, man.
Hmm.
Family's the most
It's what I
important.
wanted, right? I mean, I always talk about purpose and value and what it means to live it. I can't actually explain it in integrity if I don't actually live it myself. I think it's
Yeah.
hypocritical to say, well, I'm an online marketer and a business guy and I run a successful physical products company that doesn't require me to go do it and work in a warehouse and crap and then send my kids into the system and let them go be a part of somebody else's mentorship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. So we homeschool them all since they've started school and
That was my
they're.
next question. How's that experience been for you? I'm seeing a huge trend of homeschooling going on, and I'm hearing a lot of great things about it.
Well, I mean, you have to get out of the mindset that the catalyst for that growth you're talking about came out of that little thing we call it from 2024.
The
I don't want to
cold,
get
the
I don't
super
want to get
cold.
content strikes because I got one on my channel already. But yeah, that thing that happened, which all that growth happened, and all those people that came online, and then they called it crisis, management at the home level. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the wrong way to think about it. Like, if you're going to do this, you dedicate yourself to being a coach and a mentor to your family, especially as you're a man or a woman and a person who wants to get their kids into some alternative way of thinking outside the system. You want to pour energy and effort and tutor them. That's what you got to do. I was doing it before then, so we were already ready to go. And quite honestly, I couldn't do it without my wife. She's the CEO sergeant. She is a BSN RN by trade. She was on her way to go become a nurse practitioner. And
Wow.
when we got married and she was on that way to do that, we got pregnant and then everything changed. All your priorities changed, all the lifestyle changed. And quite frankly, for us, all for the better. Even though we ran into some medical challenges and issues with her health that forced her onto bed rest. In the first year, I launched my business, leaving IBM, getting married, getting pregnant, and she left her job to go on bed rest because she could no longer be out. We went from high income earners to zero income, launching a new business, all in the first year. And
Holy shit, man.
yeah, dude, that was quite a change. It was quite a change, but I wouldn't have done it any other way because it changed purpose and value in the
Yeah.
focus of what I was doing to be a part of my family, stay a part of my family, use that as the purpose driven aspect of my family, and completely change the way I thought about life and the world and priorities for my kids that I had really, originally established. I died to all of that desire for them and instead just said, what is it going to be to live in the present? What are
Yeah.
we doing now? Because in the present world, with her medical issues and the challenges of our first daughter, and then the significant medical issues my wife had during that process, it was all more about health. It was all more about wellness. It was
Yeah, you couldn't
about
think about anything else, probably. Yeah.
it. I couldn't get a job to save my life, or couldn't land a contract to make things go. It was like ridiculous that I needed to do these things. But ultimately, in my world, God was like, "Hey, man, I got this. Just sit down. There's a storm. You're in it, but I got it. Just take care of your family, focus on them, and I'll handle the rest of this." And that's exactly what he did.
I see you have a bunch of books back there. You still have time to read with four girls?
Yeah, this is not virtual. Like that's a real bookshelf. I still have time
Yeah.
to and time to write and time to be involved with them. We're all in 4.5 years. So from 2007 to 12, we had kids and didn't sleep for 10 years because we had kids in diapers. The oldest is
Oh,
now
you
six,
guys went full back to back.
4 and 4.5 years. Yeah, no twins.
Oh,
So
yeah, 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 yeah. You probably get asked a lot, right? If two of them are twins.
absolutely, especially the two youngers are so close that for a long time they were looking the same age and same size, and many people thought they were twins because
Yeah.
of that. They aren't, because they're so close in age. But now that they're older, they do a lot of things. They school, they help each other. There's a group and community aspect to the way life is done now through this group and through family co-ops and groups that we invest their time into. And I've just learned to shrug off so many of the myths that are, shot through the education system. So many myths that are shot about how to raise family and grow kids of stature and citizenship and value. And I throw it all that off from my corporate days that I got stuck in that limiting scarcity mindset belief that took me 5 years to break my mind of it, literally.
Yeah, you've been on both sides, so you understand.
100% battle. It's all in your head.
So
It's all
talk
in
to me
your
about
head.
your
And you
e-commerce
against
stuff,
the world,
bro.
man.
Talk
Do
to me
what?
about your e-com stuff.
Yeah, so ecom was just one of the things I fell into because as I was building up the management consulting side, I ended up with a mentor because I needed to understand how to sell correctly, like sell in my business, like to be the owner and the accountant, the bookkeeper, the sales guy, the fulfillment guy, all of the things you do in business. I had to learn really how to do all that. And I hired a mentor in my fourth year of business, and he ingrained some very fundamental things into me about business and sales and integrity of sales and delivering with integrity. And I got to learn more about how to extend and do force multiplication, force multipliers, myself times 10 other people, which is what ended up happening as I had 10 management consultants, which freed my time to go play with the digital marketing side. Found out I was actually really good on the cost per installation, CPI, cost per install, and mobile digital marketing. So in the pre-digital marketing days, before there were interfaces and webs, I was uploading spreadsheets into systems that were sending out to mobile phones installs and lead gen offers. And I actually found a couple, one in India and one in South Africa, that I started crushing it on. And on my 300th campaign, because I tried 299, it failed. I hit one off and started making $50 a day. And then it just dawned on me how to connect lead to offer to qualification to value statement to the direct response side. And as soon as I latched onto that, I was just campaign after campaign. It was 50, 100, and pretty soon $1,000 a day. But when I did that and realized what I was doing, I constantly was battling time and trading time for money because I was still in the management consultant mind and I still had these people billing for their hours. So I was still in that time-based mentality. And to break all of that, I had to fire them all. Fired them all and said, I'm just going to go pure digital marketing. So I did. And what ended up happening was really great and both bad at the same time because I was making so much money. I got heavily leveraged in a bad investment where I didn't see the opportunity for what it was. And while there were some really cool things about that, and I was the digital marketer for that business, I didn't discover what they were doing with some of the funds. And then when I got heavily leveraged into the funds and wasn't getting paid, I realized the money wasn't going to me. It wasn't going to the business. It was going somewhere else. So I immediately went down and hired a lawyer, presented all the documentation, and then indemnified myself and had to do a business bankruptcy in order to basically turn myself away from all that nonsense.
Oh my God, bro, that sounds like a nightmare.
Oh, it was an absolute nightmare because by that point we had our fourth daughter. She was pregnant. We went down to the gray interior low courthouse building, and we stepped into the bankruptcy court and had to go through all that nonsense together to basically clear all that off. And I had a pregnant wife with me, but God was in the middle of that, dude. Because when we walked in there, we had all this credit card debt and plans because we had been living off of some of them, expecting to get paid from the business while plowing more money into it, and then realizing that I didn't control certain aspects of it. And I realized later on that's what I needed to do, and I did exactly that. But in the process of that, when we walked into that really bleak looking, it wasn't a courtroom. It was a building underneath the courthouse section where they had sectioned off a room, and in that room there was like 10 different. No, it was the bankruptcy court because so many people were filing bankruptcy. I don't think anybody understands that. I did, and I never realized it until I went through it. And they had 10 folding tables with 10 judges set up. And then you got a number and you just walked in and they told you which judge to go sit down with. And that's the one you dealt with. And that was your bankruptcy court. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Right. And we rolled in with all this debt, but I had a plan of action because I take responsibility for what I did and what I needed to do. And we had a plan of action to pay it off. And we were in good faith and we were going to reconcile this whole thing. And by the grace of God, we looked over. This guy spent 10 minutes looking at our portfolio, looked up and he says, you need a break, don't you? And he saw my pregnant wife. And I was like, could really use a break, man. And he goes, okay, I don't normally do this, but for you, I'm going to do this. And he swiped off all our debt in a stroke of a pen. He wiped us clean. So we started out from zero, but we started out with no debt. And he just,
Yeah, God was on your side on that one, bro.
dude, he was watching over because I had no way to take care of it, but I was going to figure it out. So with
Yeah,
that,
you're gonna figure it out, but you had no idea what you were gonna do. But you just
nope, submitted a whole plan of action. Wasn't sure I was going to do it, but we're going to make monthly payments. We were going to honor our debt. That's not what I run from. I don't do that. And I was going to honor this and deal with the problems that were created. I own my own responsibilities. And I think by that moment, there was a grace of God looking down on us and wanted to know, and truly in our hearts, were we sincere about what we were going to do next. And I believe God looked at us in our heart and said, yeah, they are. And he just went, and that was the end of that. So we started out clean, which led me back to digital marketing and doing what I knew how to do best, and then owning the product. The long story short of e-commerce, yes, I'm in physical products and brands now because of that moment. So I couldn't control the rest of the cash flow. I couldn't control the rest of the business. And I was like, well, I have to get control of that. That was one of the missing components of this business that I could not affect positively. And I wanted physical products, not digital products, because I wanted to see tangibly where I was putting my money and I wanted to see the effect of that and where it went. So physical products were the answer to that. Yeah. So I went after physical products and I started building a brand and met a really cool dude who was much better at the finance and logistics and operational stuff. That was his brain, never had a job, and he was always involved in that. And we spent an hour on a phone call. I was like, hey, we can do some business. I got the marketing and the digital and the customer avatar. I can do this stuff really great. And you can handle the finance and the business and make sure we're accountable. And he did that, and almost 12 years later, we're still working together. We built multiple seven-figure companies off of that. And I got to our first seven figures in 2014 on our first physical product brand.
Okay. And I see you have a lot of experience in Amazon.
It's one of our primary first sales channels. Yep.
And then obviously like your proprietary website as well. Like is that you have like a hybrid strategy? You go Amazon and then you have your
100% hybrid. We'll actually go to TikTok shops first due to the demand creation component of the virility of that, and then it flows back to Amazon, which is demand capture now.
Yeah.
Amazon demand captures everything off of every platform, every piece of paid traffic and media. It ends up flowing up to 30% of the time back to Amazon. Even advertisements that don't say Amazon end up back on Amazon. So we capture those.
How's the transition been for you with all the changes in Amazon in the last few years and Amazon also?
Well, one of the things we've been very good at is pushing the boundaries. I'm a guy that jumps off the cliff. My partner's now learned to grab whatever he can and jump with me, and we build on the way down. Yeah. So we're innovating, we're always pivoting, we're always testing, we're always looking for ways to create more value and create more opportunity and simplify complicated things like any business person should be trying to do using your experience. And so we saw the writing on the wall about 6-7 years ago that Amazon and other channels were going to look more towards brand building over product flipping or simple product-based businesses. And we understood that was going to be happening right in the middle of all the drop shipping craze, right?
Yeah.
So we pushed the other direction, which was, it isn't just about products from 0 to 100. It's brands that go up to 1 million or multi-millions or 8 figures, which is...
It's not a quick flip. You're actually trying to build brands.
Got to build a brand, build it for intrinsic. It becomes a huge saleable asset, right? And when you put that much time and energy, attention, and money into it, or the team effort, you want to make sure you see the output. So we kept going the other direction. We were the salmon going against the river, right? And so we built brands when everybody else was drop shipping or flipping products or arbitraging or creating wholesale arbitrages or all this nonsense. We stayed focused on brand building. And the platforms are all catching up. So long story short, Amazon has been penalizing. Meta's been penalizing. TikTok has been penalizing anybody who's doing drop shipping, product flipping, wholesaling, arbitrage, or any of that nature. And they've been elevating brand awareness and brand affinity and trademarks and invoiced brands and manufacturing and supply chains. They're honoring that. They're lifting us up. They're pushing us forward. And in the process of doing that, we elevated our brands to higher price points, $50 to $500 in retail price points. We moved ourselves into a tier 2, tier 3 demographic and started launching products that were more than $50 in retail price point as a minimum of $12 in net profit at the bottom. So whichever channel it lands on, it's got to be more than $12 in net profit after all cost of goods and landed cost, marketing, fulfillment, and everything. And so we set a different tier.
I was looking for a story that somebody posted that he's like a sales expert and he's like an Amazon space yesterday. It disappeared, so I didn't get to show you, but I sent it to my business partner,
Mm-hmm.
and it was talking about how I guess the FTC is starting to treat like these done for you Amazon stores
100%.
as
Stay away from
securities
those.
now, and people are they're gonna start to get jail time because as a
They
digital
already.
marketer, like yeah, I've all around me, it was like the done for you offers. I never actually engage in advertising for a done for you offer, but all
Good for
around
you.
my ecosystem, people wore, and it's scary, bro, because it's a high risk to take money from so many people and assume you're gonna be able to do so much at
The
scale.
results just don't do it. We ran with it. We ran with this in the. So there's that place where the Amazon automation thing sort of kicked up quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
For that a little bit, the brand acquisition strategies, the Amazon aggregator sort of amplified that just a bit because they were looking to exploit, the loophole of these businesses after the COVID period, and so they started deploying billions of dollars into buying these companies and throwing them into Amazon aggregators. We started that process and raised $100 million by 2021 to start building and buying up 50 companies. We have a plan of operations capacity and operators that are trained in CEO operators. So we knew that the major component wasn't the acquisition, the money, or even the current value, but future value of the brand. And so we knew where the buying metrics needed to be in order to deliver operational outcomes. And when we realized they were buying 40% above market, there was no way the capacity could meet the end game and keep the results going. And we saw they were buying these absolutely stupid, ridiculous brands just to grab market share when they were not valued or capable of growing to the level of profitability and sustainability. We backed out. Like, I'm out. I don't want to be any part of this any more than I'm not an Amazon automation wholesale flipping crap. We build real businesses, real intrinsic, trademark value, brand driven, omni channel, and we scale them to an exit. So we are none of those things. So I'm like, I'm out. Like, I don't want to be involved. I don't want my brand involved. I don't want my name involved. And so before we took any money, we backed out of it. And what you've seen is they've all consolidated, capitulated, or gone bankrupt. And now there's even questions about SEC fraudulent from those aggregators. And then you flip over to the other side of the
Yeah,
house. And
SEC, my bad. I said FTC. Yeah.
no, that's okay. FTC and FCC are going after it.
Yeah.
SEC and FTC are going after it because it hits two different components. It's digital online plus the fulfillment, and the money being taken is securing ownership in a business where they don't actually have control. A real business has an operating agreement and has ownership shares and has trademarks and named and account signatories at banking levels. It has documentation, both legal and LLC filed in the state and business in which it's operating. None of those automation companies were doing that. They
Yeah,
weren't
it's
building
just an LLC
businesses.
set up. They take money from
They
people
were
and
taking an
yeah.
investment.
Yeah.
That's it. Pure. And so, yes, they should have that oversight because they're taking an investment with
Yeah.
an expected outcome. And they sold all the passive crap, which I hate. And they sold all of this done for you stuff, which is wrong because somebody has to do it. There's always operations, right? That's why I
That's why
want
it's almost automated, right? Like you talk about that.
almost automated means that while I'm an operator, an owner, and a seller in the business, signatory on bank accounts and operations, manufacturing, and the entire business down to its tax records and everything else, I can employ people and systems and technologies to automate it like any other business would,
Right.
right? Is it passive? No, because someone has to operate it. So it's not passive,
Ain't
but it can
nothing
be.
passive these days, bro. Like
Dude,
somebody,
not at the no, man. I'm in my crypto right now. That's not passive, right? It's like I'm monitoring that thing every day, every minute, and
yeah.
I'm looking at XRP today, going, "You stupid." People are freaking right because they
What
don't
happened
understand.
with Ripple today?
Well, it went. It's been down like 10%, then 16%. It was down 6% this morning. It went from like 245 to 230 or 227 this morning. It like dropped the
Hmm.
bottom, dropped out this morning. Everybody's panicking with the RL USD change because I don't think they understand what's happening, and the whole market took a big dump in the
Oh
last
man, I haven't even
24
looked at my
hours.
portfolio today.
Yeah, I just track it. That's crap. That's not even passive because you're in there watching it all the time. End result is you're still in some control and operation. You can't have that. Our operators control and partners still have an obligation to fill the business. Sign on to the business itself. We have operating partners, but they are legal partners like any LLC formation with a registered partnership. That's a very different way of doing business. And we do it for growth and scalability. We do it for the sale of the business. And in our world, we're in the buying of businesses, right? Where we buy in, we have partners in a regular business format. No one should be afraid of doing business in the world of business, but you should be very concerned about where your money goes and whether you have any freaking control over it. I have
Yeah.
heard this like 10 times in the last year. Poor people coming in at 35, 50, and 100,000, and they don't know their operations. They don't know how to get in their seller account. They don't know where the business is filed. They don't have access to the bank account. They don't know where the thing is being manufactured. All they have is, well, I don't know where my product is, and I can't get anybody to reach me, and I don't know what's
That's
going on.
freaking crazy how people just hand off their money like to other people. Like
Friends, family, and fools are three investment types to be very, very, very careful of.
friends, family, and fools. I love that. I haven't heard about
And
that before.
all of those three fall into that, I'm afraid, right? Friends sold
Yeah.
friends into it, family sold friends into it, and then fools put their money in where they can't control and can know where it has access points to it, understanding points, and really know what's happening with the business. That's not a real partnership. And yeah, the FCC and the SEC are going to go after that really hard. FTC, excuse me, are going to go after that hard because it is exactly what it is. An unregulated
You have a book, right?
right there. Almost automated income with FBA.
Oh, that's the one with the yellow font.
Yep. Kind of hiding
Okay.
out back there at the back.
Can you break down what almost automated means and why it's a game changer for entrepreneurs? I know you talked a little bit about it now, but give
Yeah.
me the general gist of the book.
Well, in simple, everybody builds something to start with. You don't
Yeah.
go hand a bunch of money to somebody else and say, here, build this for me, and expect it to produce the results and activities you want. What you're trying to do is subjugate actual action steps so that you can get to the experience, and you think you can just hire into that experience without ever knowing what the heck to do. That's the wrong strategy, the wrong approach to business, and you can't run a business by gut feel. So the 15 chapters that are in here go through very high level experts that I interviewed on my podcast, the High Voltage Business Builders podcast. We took out segments of that. We combined it with case studies and actionable strategic and actionable statements and activities they can do to understand that building an e-commerce business from the ground up is worth more in the end than at any time during the business building phase. And each chapter of finance, research, market, wealth without Wall Street, and every component of the steps of doing this business are strategically outlined in that, including systems of automations, processes, SOPs, and the ways that you can employ or contract with individuals who have hired skill sets to parachute into your business to make it more automated for you, right? So that you can run a multi-seven-figure business for 20 hours a week and legitimately have a full operations, not because it is being, done by magical monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. It's because there's actually people operating it. And so we go through the steps of that along with a lot of resources on how to strategically do the business correctly. Now, it isn't tactical, and everybody's like, well, it doesn't have tactics. No, because every other FBA book or business or ecom book has tactics. And that's not like I can teach my 16-year-old how to do tactics. I taught a 19-year-old high school dropout how to do tactics, right? But without the strategy, he wouldn't have made a multi-seven-figure business, which he did. The strategy of the business, the fundamental, and what I execute and how I'm going to think about what I'm executing in the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years is more important than what tactical buttons and things you push on a dashboard, because people don't get that. So this is strategy. It is process. It is goal orientated. And then you learn the tactics of implementation on how to make that actually work daily, weekly, and monthly. So you can look up in 12 months and maybe done right, have a seven-figure business in your hand with physical, tangible assets, right? So that's outlined in the resources and execution to create automations and understanding of how to systematize the business model.
You talk about planning for a seven-figure exit. What are some mistakes new sellers make that keep them from reaching that milestone?
There are 3 reasons why a business fails, right? Lack of knowledge, lack of execution, and lack of capitalization. Okay. Those are the 3 critical things. And it is typically in years 4 and 5 in which 80% of all businesses fail. They fail because they lack the knowledge to scale the business and capitalize it correctly, right? So they lack the understanding of when to risk and what to risk. And they set precedences and barriers of risk that do not match where the business could go. So they limit the business, they limit the scope through their risk of running the business. And in a physical inventory-based business, the biggest risk is not going with the business when it says, I need more marketing, I need more inventory. If you're not willing to risk the next level of capitalization, either through personal or however you can grab it together through capitals or SBA loans or whatever, the business won't go. Okay, it simply won't. You'll stagnate its ability to grow. Once the products are defined, once the brand is defined, once the first part of the business is launched, then you have to systematize that for growth and capitalization. So those are the factors by which most people miss. They miss how to execute as a strategic business CEO operator and how to capitalize it correctly for growth.
Right.
And it's usually held up in their mind by risk. They are not willing to risk the next thing that I am or someone else is because they aren't understanding the abundance. They're still in their limiting and scarcity belief system. This could be real estate. This could be finance world. This could be sales and marketing. This could be digital marketing on Facebook ads. It is the same problem regardless of which business function you execute. It's the same problem. The bigger difference between, say, mine in a pure digital marketing is you got a physical inventory you have to capitalize, right?
Yeah.
We have to buy, on average, $1.5 million in inventory over 90 days to run a $10 million business, right? So with that, you got to be able to capitalize that. If you can't compete with the big boys. That's just the way it works. You can't start a business on Amazon like all these hopium, guru, YouTube, Lambo, dream mindset miners are out there telling everybody all this crap. Well, I can get started and build a 7-figure business for $5,000 on Amazon, and it just freaking doesn't happen.
It's ridiculous. It's too much of it out there.
It just doesn't happen, dude. It's lies. It's all lies.
It's hard for people that are actually doing a good job to do what they do.
No, dude, man, to get to a multi-7, 8-figure business, depending upon which scale of profitability you're looking at, because revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is king, and nobody ever wants to pay attention to that. But at the end of it, if you want the profitability with the growth, you've got to capitalize the inventory. To get to a $13 million a year business like Daniel Espy, he had to put in $1 million in 4 years to do it. So he was willing to take the risk, level up, find the next capitalization of growth. Could he be a 9-figure business where he is? Absolutely. What he's missing is the next level of capitalization. He's working on trying to figure that out right now because 9 figures is easily within his realm. He's just got to get the next level of capitalization, open the additional marketplaces. He's got Amazon and Shopify going for him right now. And
what's one common misconception about running an Amazon FBA business, and how do you help people overcome it?
That Amazon FBA is a business. It's not. It's a sales channel. It's a sales channel and an e-commerce company. So people make the misunderstanding that Amazon is an FBA-based business or FBA is an Amazon business, is a business of e-commerce. And it is not. It's a sales channel. It is one sales channel on the road.
Facebook, is like TikTok, is like Instagram, like
all different sales channels where you might be moving digital or physical products across them, but a multitude of sales channels is an e-commerce or a business. Not a single channel is a business. Does a business make any more than side hustle or hustling in the business world is a true business? It is simply a side hustle income in which you've decided you don't want to take the next level of risk and make it a real business. So you're willing to cap it at $2,000-3,000 a month when your real potential is $20,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 a month or more. You just capped it because you called it something different.
That was a great answer, man. I didn't really think about it that way. I want to ask you, your playbook includes a 4-step process for building sustainable e-commerce brands. Can you walk us through those steps?
Yeah. First one's, what the heck do I sell?
Yeah, literally.
What the heck do I sell? In my world, it's branded physical products. As I mentioned earlier, they're $50 to $500 in retail price point. I do not let friends sell friends to sell $20 products on Amazon or any other channel. Unless you understand an AOV, average order value, and you understand your customer lifetime value over 12 months, do not sell a $20 product. The capital required is way too much. You don't have the marketing engine behind you yet to understand what follow-up and all the follow-up metrics of SMS, email, packaging, et cetera. It's just too much. It's too complicated.
Conversion windows, all that,
Yeah, preaching to the choir. So the end result is, what the heck do I sell comes down to a numbers game. It comes down to understanding the conditional output of a product type is relative to the person you're selling it to, not you. Okay? We always think about ourselves. Well, how much money am I going to make? You're not asking the right questions. It's how much of a value and solution is this person wanting for that product? And if they're willing to pay $49, they're willing to pay $99. If they're willing to pay $99, how do I make it $199 with a perceived value? What's in it for them? And by product of purpose and value, I will get the profits. Okay. So if I'm thinking about this in reverse, I'm not actually engineering a product. I'm engineering a solution through a digital marketing listing on Amazon to start with that gives the highest perceived value of that product possible, which means I'm going after the higher value product and I'm going to convince them to buy mine and not somebody else's. That leads me to the right numbers. You can't run your business by a gut feel. I said this earlier, which means I have to know my numbers. How many small businesses, e-commerce companies have you dealt with or I've dealt with where you go in and be like, what's your conversion value? What's your profitability? What's your landed cost of goods? What's your AOV? And you just get a deer in the headlights, right?
Like what?
What's a what?
Like that's the problem. We got to start there.
We got to go back to the knowledge component here for a second, right? Because you're missing some core fundamentals of the business. So they got to know their numbers. They can't run it by gut feel. They got to know the profitability, the landed cost, the meta fees, the CPM. What does that even mean? No. How does my conversion rate work, right? What's a conversion on Amazon versus a conversion on my lead, my direct-to-consumer channel? What is my AOV on each of these channels? What is my customer lifetime value probability on one channel versus the next? Can I get to Amazon's level of $1,400 per customer per year? If I know that, and I could do that on Shopify too, then I know what? I either have to sell them one product at $1,400 or multiple products, do the math. I have to get them into my brand and stay in my brand and buy up to $1,400 with my brand in 1 year. So what am I willing to spend to do that? Well, I may be willing to spend $700 to do that, knowing they're going to spend $1,400 with me in a year. Are you willing to do that? So if I know the numbers, I know where I'm at, I know where the physical product world is, and I know how to create that driven narrative customer avatar engaged and answering 3 questions of their primary nature when they show up. I'm not actually selling them. I'm just validating them and telling them, hey, congratulations, you found what you were looking for. Buy me now in 30 seconds or less. So after that, I got to understand branding and product development, right? The third one is understanding that you do not marry your products, okay? Any more than you marry your business or a product line. If it's not working, if you can't get the brand dialed in, shift gears. It either starts to look better or it starts to look worse. Changing and pivoting is not quitting. That's failing up, not failing out. So you've got to shift and pivot. So do not marry your product. If the data is not good for the algorithmic engine, then you do it again. If your creative and CPA on Meta is not working right, launch 10 more creatives until you find the one that does. Well, physical product world and listings in a data-driven AI engine called Amazon.com is doing the same damn thing. So I have to drive product narrative. So we will always launch 5 products into the market at 100 test units to find out what the market wants. They're not smart enough to tell the market what it wants, but I want to know what it wants from me.
Right.
With that, I will understand how much traffic, the fourth thing, how much traffic am I going to get from this system? How many impressions? How many clicks? What's my conversion rate going to look like? With that kind of number, I understand how much money to pump back in it and how much more product to buy. If two of those products out of 5 take off, okay, instead of 100 units in 90 days, I sell 130 days, then I'm going to capitalize each of those products under 1,000 more units. At that point, I'm not just selling the product the market wants. I'm innovating slight USP differentiators, 3 different things into that product base that now differentiate it from the business of any other product that I'm currently competing against. And by the way, on Amazon, there are what are called nodes. They're like the leaves on a tree in this big filing system. It's just a big digital filing system, right? And I'm not competing at department or category or subcategory like the rest of these Yahoos. I'm competing at tier 2, tier 3, which are the nodes and the branches. And there's a smaller brand-to-brand competition, which means I might have 5 to 10 actual competitors in the entire ecosystem that I'm targeting. And they own 80% of that market share, equivalent to maybe 30 or 40 million searches a year. And I just want to get into 1% of that. I got my target, I got my metrics, I got my USP, and I'm going to organically optimize my way into that launch, or PPC driven, pull myself into that launch on Amazon first, because I can take PPC and rank organically. It's one of the only places online you can do that. And with that, I have to track my total advertising cost of sales. With that metric correctly dialed in between 8 to 15%, I can buy a lot of traffic on Amazon at higher conversion rates than anywhere else online. Right. 10 to 15% averages on Amazon is much higher than 1 to 3% on a direct to consumer channel. Yeah. So with that, I can then spend a lot more money to acquire that traffic. And then that dials into the whole principle of this thing we call the platinum principle, which is building the dang thing for an exit, which means I'm willing to plow more growth, more capitalization up front to build more automation so that it becomes a much greater saleable asset at the time. And I'll have multiple channels to sell on, not just one.
So you've had an exit already for one of your brands, or you've helped others exit?
We've had multiple mid-size exits. We've got some larger exits coming up because we've waited longer to let the brand maturity grow. I've got client accounts that are getting ready to mature for exit. It's just depending upon whether or not they want to open additional sales channels to get a higher valuation of their exit.
Yeah.
And we have 4 companies that we're evaluating out of over 200 we've been looking at for the last year, of which 1 we're under LOI. The second one, I believe, will go under LOI. And then the 2 more are in conversations to get to an LOI. And that's going to be between 30 and 50 million a year in new acquisitions for us and brands that'll be out in the omni-channel space.
Neil, how do you want to be remembered?
I want everybody to remember my name synonymous with Jesus first. My 5 F's: faith, family, friends, freedom, and finances. And if I can't have those 5 F's, then my name doesn't matter at the end of the day. I want to be remembered as somebody who was a good father, a good husband, who extolled the values of integrity across my life and my business that are all synonymously combined through my entire lifestyle. And at the end, if they think about me, they think about me because I told the truth. They think about me because I looked a little bit like Jesus. Not exactly, but as much as I can. And that's how I'm remembered at the end of the day. And mostly with my family is where I hope it lands.
That was beautiful, bro. I love that. And
Well,
I'm in agreement.
purpose and
That was everything you said was great. And lastly, I want to touch on your book. You were generous enough to have an offer for us and for my
yes, sir.
listeners for the book.
Yep.
I believe the code is hustle IH, all caps, right?
voltagedm.com/free book. That's voltage digital marketing, voltagedm.com/free book. Enter that code. 10 of you who are still listening to me pontificate, thank you very much, are going to get a free copy of the book right now for those of you who go check it out.
I love that. Thank you for being generous with that, man.
You're welcome. Take the
I'm very
strategy.
big on books, bro, so it's very important for me. And the purpose of this episode was for us to connect, but for people to learn. And
Yeah,
if there's anything from them to take away from this conversation, great. But if they could take it a step deeper and bring your book in and learn a lot from you, I think that would be fantastic.
that'd be
I think it's a great tool to learn from, not just because you have the experience in the industry, but because you have the right morals in place. So I hope a lot of people are able to benefit from our conversation.
me too, man. That's why we're out here doing this, right?
Yeah. Anything else we're missing, man?
No, I mean, I would just say that same thing I always say at the end of my podcast, and that's the opportunities begin at the end of your excuses. So if you want to make it change, get out there and take some imperfect action, and something perfect will happen along the way.
All right, y'all. You heard those words. Live by them. This is Alex Quinn, Neil Twa. Hustle inspires hustle. See you on the next episode.